You're watching the Real Football Network, and this is Behind the Numbers. This week we thought we'd take a look at the quarterback play of Michael Vick. Now, unfortunately, the Steelers were trending towards one of the most prolific offensive seasons we've seen in recent years, and Ben Roethlisberger obviously hurt his leg in St. Louis, and Michael Vick is now at the helm. What to expect with Michael Vick under a Todd Haley offense? Well, we thought we'd take a look at a number of different metrics that we typically utilize to evaluate quarterbacks to try to get an idea of what Todd's going to come up with for Michael and his Pittsburgh Steelers over the next 6 to 7 weeks as Ben recovers. Let's take a look at the 2013 passing map from Michael Vick. Now, as we look at the map immediately, I'll point out a few areas to highlight. First off, we can absolutely expect Michael to be coached to play short and intermediate with his passing. And interestingly enough, even though Michael Vick's a left-handed quarterback, he had a higher completion percentage. If you look at the right seam and the intermediate to short areas, he had a pretty decent completion percentage of 70% in the intermediate right seam and 63% on the short right seam area. Also, some area that popped out to me is the right sideline, the short passing at the right sideline. That might be an interesting place to get Le'Veon Bell into open space and for Michael to take some short opportunities to try to get Le'Veon the ball and get him downfield. As we move over to the 2014 passing map, we see a very similar type of pattern. Of course, he had more reps in 2014 with the New York Jets as he played 10 games. But you look at a higher concentration of passing opportunities in the intermediate and short passing ranges, specifically from the left seam all the way to the right sideline. And again, we see some interesting areas of strength. First off, in the right seam, like we talked about in 2013, he completed 63% of his passes in the intermediate pass range in the right seam and 78% in the short right seam. Also, that area that I was talking about in 2013, the right sideline, short depth pass range, an 83% completion percentage. I would be very surprised to see Todd Haley not utilize this area of strength for Michael. And again, I think it's interesting. The primary area where Michael was successful with a higher completion percentage over the last 2 years is on the right side of the field, even though he's left-handed. Could this mean some right bootlegs or right rollout plans from Todd Haley in the offensive scheme? Let's take a look at some more numbers. We're looking right now at the Michael Vick quarterback play capsule, and a couple of areas I wanted to point out here. First is the column that is labeled successful play. As you notice, from 2012 to 2014, Michael went anywhere from a 44.6% successful play percentage to 2014, a 38.4% successful play percentage. To put that in the context, that's extremely low for a quarterback. How we define successful plays at Real Football is 40% of the necessary yards on first down towards the next first down, so a 4-yard gain, 50% of the remaining yards available for the next first down on second down, and a third down conversion to score. We typically like to see successful play percentages for quarterbacks of 52% or higher, so these are pretty low scores for Michael. You'll also notice a significant decrement in the number of scrambles he had from 2012 to 2014. Obviously, Michael's still extremely athletic, and we'd expect him to scramble around and move around in the pocket, but for him to actually become a primary runner, I would expect Todd Haley to kind of put the reins on Michael and make sure that he stays in the pocket and lets the receivers and running backs do the heavy lifting. Also, we'll identify the fact that Michael took a significant number of sacks from 2012 to 2014, again, signaling that Todd may want to move Michael around in the pocket to buy him some time. The next slide we're going to look at is Michael Vick's passing profile. A couple of areas of emphasis here. This is from 2013 and 2014. First off, you can see his completion percentage for both seasons was actually quite low for a quarterback, 55% in 2013 while he was with the Eagles, and 53% in 2014 when he's with the Jets. Moving on to 2014, his yards per attempt and yards per completion, 5 yards on the yards per attempt and 9.4 yards on the yards per completion, those are the lowest in the NFL in 2014 for all quarterbacks who had at least 100 pass attempts. In the final column, you see the adjusted completion percentage. Now, the adjusted completion percentage is the pass completion percentage of a quarterback for all balls thrown beyond the line of scrimmage. 57% is actually quite a low score. We'd like to see a 62 to 63% adjusted completion percentage for a quarterback. With all this information we just talked about, we'd say, well, listen, we expect Michael to throw a lot of short passes and intermediate passes, roll around and move around in the pocket, and let that significant running game for Pittsburgh take control. Perhaps we might even see some screen passing. What we're looking at here is Vick's history in terms of screen passes from 2012 to 2014. And in essence, he just hasn't had a lot of attempts in the screen game. Whether he's with Philadelphia or New York, Michael has very limited experience passing in a screen passing scheme. It may be interesting or even surprising to see Todd Haley come up with some type of idea to bring the screen game back into play so that Michael can gain confidence to get passes to players like Le'Veon Bell who could extend plays. Will we see some more screen passes from Pittsburgh? That'll be interesting. I'd pick Ben Roethlisberger to be the offensive MVP for the league this year. I'd love an opportunity to reset that pick, and I'm sure the Steelers would love an opportunity to reset the injury that happened to him last weekend. Nevertheless, these are the cards they've been dealt. Let's see what Todd Haley comes up with from Michael Vick and see how the Pittsburgh Steelers go forward for the next 6 or 7 weeks. For Behind the Numbers, I'm John Pollard.